What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It's time for the Week 13 College Football Playoff Eliminator following Week 12 of the 2022 college football season. Of course, we only have 1 week left, one more opportunity for teams to get eliminated, but the playoff picture has definitely changed. Maybe the biggest change that we've seen from last week to this week, and it all is because of one thing, all because Tennessee lost. That completely changed the playoff picture, opened the door up for several teams. These are the teams that were already eliminated coming into this week. We are going to bring a couple teams back from the dead. I talked about that in my video the other day, but let's start with the new eliminations. So we've got one here, Tennessee. Tennessee now out of it. There is no chance for the Vols to get back into the college football playoff picture. It's going to be interesting to see where they wind up being ranked without Hendon Hooker now that he's out for the season. But because of that, I don't think, even with a ton of chaos, I don't see any way Tennessee climbs back into the top 4. So they're out of it. They're eliminated, but there are some 2-loss teams that I think are back in it, and it's going to take a lot, but there is a path. That's Alabama and Oregon. So I know a lot of you are going to say, hold on a second, no way. There is no way a 2-loss team's getting in. Neither one of these teams getting in. It's just impossible. It's not going to happen. All right, let me walk you through the scenario. Georgia wins the SEC championship. Michigan, Ohio State both get in the college football playoff. That's 3 teams right there. You have 3 teams in the playoff, 1 spot remaining. What happens if TCU loses their final 2 games? What happens if USC loses a game, which I think is very likely to happen? What happens if Clemson loses a game? You got a ton of 2-loss teams left. Who gets in? It could be Alabama or it could be Oregon. I think Oregon, if they win the Pac-12 championship, is going to have the best argument because they would be a conference champion. And where they're ranked, can they move up that high? But I think there will also be an argument for Alabama, as much as I hate to say it. When you look at this team losing 2 games on the road on the final play of the game, the committee could just say, look, we think Alabama is one of the best 4 teams. If they go out and they win big against Auburn, if those other things happen, if TCU loses 2 games, USC, Clemson both lose a game, it's possible that the committee could put Alabama up there at number 4. I don't want to see that happen, obviously, but it could happen. And I think if you think that it's impossible, again, TCU's had a lot of close games this year. They could lose their final 2 games. It wouldn't shock me. I feel like as long as they win even if they don't win the Big 12 championship, if they win one of those last 2 games, they would be in that scenario just because they'd be a 1-loss team. But USC has Notre Dame and then possibly Oregon coming up. Those are 2 tough games. Clemson has to play South Carolina. They're just lit it up against Tennessee. And then also North Carolina, who has a high-powered offense. I know they just lost, but still, that scenario could play out, and you never know. So interesting to see these 2 teams, teams that I thought were definitely out of it, teams that were done, possibly being back in the conversation. Again, they need a lot of help, but it could happen. You look at the teams that still have 1 or 2 losses, but they're still alive. Clemson, LSU, USC. USC, I think, is pretty much in control of their own destiny. I think if they went out, they're probably going to get in. LSU, if they went out, probably going to get in. Clemson needs a little bit more help. I think they definitely need Georgia to beat LSU, and I think they definitely need USC to lose. And they might need TCU to lose. I don't know if Clemson gets in over the loser of Michigan and Ohio State. Probably not. So they need the most help right now, but there is a path for them. There is absolutely a path if they can take care of business and win their final 2 games. And then, of course, we've got the teams that are still undefeated: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and TCU. These teams all in control of their own destiny. They're already in the top 4. They're undefeated. If they win out, they will be in. Georgia, obviously. Michigan, Ohio State winner is in. Loser might be in. Again, we'll have to see how it plays out with these other teams. And then there's TCU. I think if they went out, they're in. I don't see anyone passing them. You can make an argument. What if LSU beats Georgia? They're not going to put a 2-loss team ahead of an undefeated Power 5 champion. So yes, TCU in control of their own destiny. So we look at the playoff picture now. Again, if the favorites went out, we'll have Georgia number 1, Ohio State number 2. I'm assuming TCU will be favored in the Big 12 championship, but they might not be. I don't know. Kansas State's been playing really well. So Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, those teams are in, and then you're fighting for that final spot. Michigan, Clemson, and USC. Again, LSU, if they beat Georgia, they're in this conversation. If we get chaos, Oregon, Alabama could enter into this conversation. But what is it? If it's a one-loss Clemson, USC, one-loss Michigan, who gets in? I think Clemson's not getting in. I think we can say Clemson would be behind Michigan and USC. But the debate would be between USC and Michigan. A one-loss USC, a one-loss Michigan. I think their resume for USC would be enough. They'd be a conference champion. So I do believe USC would make it in that scenario. But what if they lose? And again, I think that's very possible. I still think Michigan probably stays ahead of Clemson, but that'll be a debate. That will definitely be an interesting debate there. We'll see how much Clemson moves up this week. And then again, if they beat South Carolina, and how far does Michigan fall? So that'll be very interesting there. But I feel like USC probably the team in the driver's seat for that number 4 seed if they can win out. So your thoughts, how do you see it all shaking out? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.